Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever in this new topsy-turvy world you might be watching. Let's look at what I find to be the 10 best Excel tips which can make your life much easier. As I click on the first word in each of the cells here in the tip numbers, I'll be taken to that particular worksheet. So let's click on this one, and the tip is how to hide the ribbon. The ribbon appears, of course, at the top here, and there are times when you may like more room on your worksheet. The easiest way is to hold down the Control key and press F1. That hides the ribbon. If you want to bring the ribbon back, just press Control F1 again. It's really quite simple. Let's go back to the Home tab to see the next tip. And it's a little beauty. As we say in Australia, it's an absolute ripper. To insert a date with Control semicolon. So I'm going to click there and I'll choose a cell, any cell, and I'll hold down the Control key and press the semicolon. That inserts today's date. I'll press the Enter key. Now that date will change with the computer's clock. So if you open up your spreadsheet tomorrow, it will show, for example, the 14th of September 2020. Extremely handy and very, very efficient. Okay, back we go to the Home tab, and we see the next tip is to Control Enter to stay in the same cell. Let's click that link, and it works like this. If I want to add those numbers, I can click where I want the answer and choose, for example, Auto Sum. When I click Auto Sum, Excel looks up the column and it will want to add the numbers. Now most people will press Enter, which certainly shows them the answer, but it takes them down a cell. So what I'm going to do is to delete that last entry, and I'll click the Auto Sum button again, and this time I'm going to hold down the Control key and press Enter. That keeps me in the same cell. It saves me a click if I want to go back to that cell to perhaps format the cell. So remember, Control Enter, irrespective of which cell you're using, will keep you in the same cell. Back we go to the Home tab. And the next tip is to use the Data Filter command. Now what we're going to do here in this particular set of data is to click on one of the entries in the headings, and when I choose the Data tab and the Filter button in the Sort and Filter group, it shows me the filter buttons where I can use to filter as I need. Now the advantage of this is that it doesn't convert the data to a table. It purely shows you the filter buttons. So as I remove the filter, there I can see that I can select all again to go back, and it enables me to quickly sort and filter. We'll use our famous Home button to go back to the Home tab, where we see the next tip, number 5, is to double click the Format Painter button to Multipaste formats. The way it works quite simply is this. If I change the colour of Tom, we'll say to red, if I click the Format Painter once, I can choose that format once. I'll undo that action, because if I choose the Format Painter twice, double click on it, I can format the format, copy the format more than once. So that's very handy. Remember, double click the Format Painter button to multi-paste the formats. We'll undo those actions and go to our next tip. Back to the Home tab. And our next tip is how to use the clear command efficiently. Now, when I go to the sheet and look over here in the editing group, I see the clear command. Now, the clear command has a number of options available to me. Clicking the clear command on its own does nothing. You need to click the drop arrow. And when, for example, I say clear the formats, then that is exactly what it does. I'll undo that last action, because now what I'm going to do is to drag down through the cells and click the drop arrow for clear and choose clear all, and that is exactly what it does. I'll undo again that last action. I can either click on the undo button up here in the ribbon, or I can press Control Z, as we say in Australia, or you may well understand it as a non-Australian as Control Z. Now we'll go back to the Home tab, and our 7th tip is to using Control, Shift and an arrow to select data within a range. This can be extremely useful, because what we're going to see is how I can select, by using Control, Shift and the arrows, the rows or the columns, but only to those rows or columns which contain data. So if I click on Tom, for example, and hold down Control, Shift and the down arrow, it selects those cells. I'll click away. I'll click on Mary and Control, Shift and the right arrow, and that is what it does. If I click on the salary for Sue and Control, Shift, left arrow, then it selects the data in that particular row. It can be particularly efficient, especially where you have large amounts of data in columns or rows. Remember, Control, Shift and the arrows. Let's take our trip back to the Home tab, where we'll see the next tip, number 8, using F11 to insert a default chart. The way this works is quite simple, but it's not often known by Excel users. So what I'm going to do is to go to sheet number 8, select the data, and I'll press F11, and let's see what happens. Excel gives me a default chart. The chart can be formatted as you wish, and it will only go to a default chart, one of the basic column charts, but saves a lot of time if you just wish to see a chart on your data. So remember F11 after having selected the data that you want to be charted. Let's go back to our famous home again, and we're nearing the end, and I want to see how to move blocks of data quickly and efficiently. Let's click on the link, and I want to move this block of data to somewhere else on the worksheet. Now I don't need to copy and paste it, although I could do that, because there is a nice quick way that I can perform the same action by using the mouse. And I do that by clicking on any of the borders, and I simply drag the data around and drop it where I want. So that's very, very simple. Remember, select the data, choose one of the borders, and when you see the four-headed arrow, drag the data to wherever you wish. Let's make our last journey to the Home tab, where we see the 10th clue, which is to see your formulas with one click. You can see formulas by clicking on the cell that contains a formula and see the formula up in the taskbar. However, there is an easy way to see a formula. I'm going to add the auto sum button down here by going to the Home tab and auto sum. Yes, control enter as we saw before. But now in the formulas group I see that there is a command called show formulas, and when I click on it, that is exactly what it does over here. So it's a very quick and efficient way of seeing what your formulas are and where they are. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a pleasure to run through this with you, and I do hope you find that the tips will increase your efficiency and the absolute joy of using Excel, as it were. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.